Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. So, Beavis and Butthead are back in movie form. Although they stopped in 1997 and they had that reboot series I didn't watch, they haven't actually had a new movie since about 1996 when they had Beavis and Butthead Do America. Now, unlike that, which came out theatrically, this is on Paramount Plus. In a certain way, I was not sure how they would do another Beavis and Butthead movie because the first one is so much of like, let's take Beavis and Butthead and put them in this thriller, and that's kind of the joke of the movie, and it's like a decent thriller, and like have, all these Robert Stack and Bruce Willis and Demi Moore and like all this stuff in it. And it's kind of like these kind of idiots who would never be in this situation. This one is more expected on what a Beavis and Butthead movie should be. It's kind of like a real follow-up to Do America. And I don't know if we needed that. Maybe, I guess it's like kind of those kind of like cash in return type of movies. And that's sort of like what you'd expect from this is like, I guess, what you get. Beavis and Butthead in 1998, so this takes place after the original series, at least I believe. They go to a science fair, they burn it down. They are then asked to, as a punishment, to go to the space camp, which was a prize from the science camp. When they get to the space camp, or the science camp at NASA, the NASA people like them so much, and they're playing with this thing where like a cylinder goes into a hole, and they're like, oh, these guys are geniuses, even though they're just laughing because it's like sex jokes. So they are sent to space, and they mess that up, and then are thrown by this astronaut Serena, who they think is totally going to score with them, knocks them into a black hole, and they're transported from 1998 to 2022 and are on the run as the government notices they came back from the black hole, and Serena, who used to be an astronaut, is now the governor, I think, or a senator. She is trying to find them because she doesn't want them to say that she like sort of tried to kill them, and the government wants to find them because they think they're aliens and stuff, and so they're on the run from all these people all over again. I have been watching Beavis and Butthead since I was probably like 9 years old. I thought it was amazing when I was a little kid. They said fire. Half the moms said I couldn't watch it. I'm not exactly sure why my parents let me watch it, or maybe just didn't care. Anyway, or we're like, oh, that's a cartoon, I guess. Whatever. But I did. I watched it as a kid, and I really liked it. I've liked it for a long time. It's a franchise I would say I hold near and dear to my heart. And so watching this, it does feel like kind of how a lot of reboots are, where it's like, oh, cool, you met the quality. Neat. And sometimes I find that boring. When it comes to stuff like the new Looney Tunes, it's wonderful. When it comes to like all these reboots who just like, oh, cool, you made the best sequel. I mean, that's neat, I guess. It does feel a little boring. But this movie, I would say, flow-wise, it kind of meets you as someone who did lie on the couch and watch a Beavis and Butthead marathon and be like, wow, my whole day is just watching these two idiots. And there's like a sort of malaise, boredom, fascination with these characters that I can't quite describe as well, but I guess you'd have to be there. And I was a kid, so I wasn't like high or something like that. It's just like there's a sort of like existential nihilistic, but I've accepted this is it thing. The show does perfectly in terms of Beavis and Butthead. You're just like, oh cool, they're going again and again, and you're like, oh, okay, well that's funny, so I'm gonna keep watching. Interesting, if you look at a lot of the reboots or like, oh, and now they're in 2022, most of the time they don't do what this is doing. Like Chip and Dale is like they existed all this time and they're at fan conventions, they're older, and this is like these characters in now. I don't know anyone else who does that. They don't do too much with it. One would think, why do it then? They don't do too much with it. They have an iPhone thing with Siri, who he thinks is Serena because Beavis doesn't understand what Siri is. They also have a part where they show up in a women's studies class, and Tig Notaro is the women's studies teacher, I believe. They talk about white privilege, and Beavis and Butthead decide, oh, we have white privilege, we can get away with whatever we want. Just start walking into places and just stealing stuff and like just being ridiculous because they're like, oh, well, we have white privilege, we're allowed to do this. That was really funny. I thought that was a pretty good way to take like a current thing a lot of people say currently and like use it with Beavis and Butthead, and it worked quite naturally in my mind. I'm sure people are going to say that's wokeness, but I don't think Beavis and Butthead, I don't think they've ever had a conscious decision long enough to be woke. But this was a fun movie, and it was fun to walk down memory lane, and I like the kind of watcher, smart Beavis and Buttheads and the alternate dimension stuff, and stuff like that was kind of fun. But it did make me go, what's the point of doing this? And also following up a movie and trying to artistically do a different movie who did it a lot better. Like, Do America is like understanding the genre tropes it's going in. Do the Universe is just like, we did that before, so they're on the run again. And there's not really like a real reason. It's not a sci-fi reason. Like, they could have, I don't know, had like the various different kinds of Beavis and Butthead get together, from Liquid Television to the series to the movie to this and so forth. It was interesting seeing Titmouse do the animation. They kind of had to combine the character designs we're used to with their own character designs, which I think they did a good enough job that when I didn't think about it, I didn't notice it. But once you notice it, it's definitely there. I think they did a good job animating, but it's just like character design juxtaposition, I do agree, is a little noticeable and jarring. It's sort of a Titmouse character design, so you're just like, I mean, it is animated by them. I would say this ends up kind of being a lesser effort of Beavis and Butthead, and Mike Judge, who didn't direct this, is directed by John Rice and Albert Caleros, one of which directed the Q-Force, another directed other stuff. Sorry. I think if you're going to bring Beavis and Butthead back, you kind of sort of have to have a bit of a reason and something you're doing with that. And it just felt like, oh, we'll have this universe idea. Oh, they'll be in 2022. And they don't do like enough with it. It's like fun seeing them again. It's fun seeing them do their skits and stuff like that. It was fun seeing MTV put the old episodes up with music videos, but not really enough. They shouldn't have made a big deal out of that if they're going to do so few. But this movie felt very kind of just like a trifle of a kind of film. It is crazy that this came out like, I guess, a day before the Roe v. Wade overturn thing. And I feel like this film just got completely forgotten about because I don't think people were super into watching Beavis and Butthead that weekend. If you are a fan of it, I think it would work. It does sort of feel like it's the bogus journey to Do America's Excellent Adventure. But actually, I think Bogus Journey is better than this. This feels like kind of like a franchise coming back to itself. Everybody's cashing in, but they don't really have a good enough reason. I wish there was a concept-wise. They tried like Face the Music, but Bill and Ted's third film at least like understands its concept and like what it's doing and things of that nature. And this just doesn't, I think on a conceptual, theoretical level, doesn't know what it's doing. Whereas the first one had that so tight, you love to follow it. So that would be, I think, the major thing with this film is it is just sort of like for the fans. And Do America was most people's only exposure to Beavis and Butthead, I knew, because they kept playing it on MTV like randomly on Saturdays and stuff. And people like that. And I thought that movie did a good job of bringing them into a concept, but also like if you've never watched Beavis and Butthead, you can enjoy it. Do the Universe, I just don't see that in it. And I don't think anyone would, and I don't think this would make anyone want to watch more Beavis and Butthead if they weren't already acquainted with it. So I had a good enough time. I just don't think what it was doing was unique or different or interesting enough in the Beavis and Butthead canon. It just felt like they're coming back to these characters and that's what these characters do. And that sounds as boring as when you say that's what happens. And that is about as exciting as when people shrug and go, I accept it. And if you shrug and accept this movie, it's pretty good. But if you're not familiar with Beavis and Butthead, or you like expected more or something, then I guess you'll probably be disappointed. So if you have seen Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.